Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, and we are back for another episode of Draft Talk, our favorite topics. I'm joined by Beyond the Locker Room, Coach Roache. How are you guys doing? Of course, I know I just asked you that not that long ago, but
Hey man, it's draft talk time. What else are we gonna do in the middle of February, man? But talk draft prospects, man. And the Raptors, man,
exactly.
that's what we got to live for at this point, man. You
Hey,
know,
man, people wanted to tank. This is what it's
yeah.
for.
For the weakest draft in 10 years. Yeah.
So, in terms of the draft, again, I'm going to continue to call it flat. And the reason why I call it flat is because I think that there could be a lot of movement. As I'm looking through these prospects, I mean, you're seeing the guy that we're talking about today at the top of the hour, Ron Holland. He was at first a number one overall consensus draft pick coming into this year. Right now, there's some mocks putting him at like 11th, 12th, etc. And with him being out for the rest of the year with a thumb injury that happened over the weekend, All Star weekend, of course. I mean, it's interesting because his draft stock may stay the same, but it also might, slide back a bit as other guys get more shine and move up. So again, it's a draft where you don't necessarily need to tank to get something of value, but it's also a draft where, again, I would not be expecting some world beater. Now, people are going to ask me, and sorry for the long preamble, guys, but people are going to ask me, well, like, did you know that Shea was good at 8 years old or any of this? First of all, no, because I didn't watch Shea at 8 years old. There's a difference between watching someone at 8 years old and watching someone who's just about to enter the NBA. But, for those of you who did know, good for you. What I will say is this. In terms of where we're at today, you can kind of know if you has a chance at being generational, right? It's not a guarantee, but there's a chance. And if you're going to put your money on safer bets of getting to generational prospects, I think that, there's certain things that people look for or don't look for. And I think that there are ways to tell if there's at least a floor of skills that you can put on the floor and make that person either impactful or if they need work. I look at it like this. I think it's important to look at ceilings as well as floors, and then within that, is there a pathway for them to get to X, Y, and Z ceiling? Some guys need a little bit more of a longer pathway, or it's a lot harder depending on the skill set that needs to develop. By the time you develop those things, 5 years has gone past, and all of a sudden, you're into the end of the second contract. So these are things that to think about when you're thinking about who could develop, how they can develop, and that sort of thing. With that being said, we're going to talk about Ron Holland. Okay. Ron Holland, 18 years old, G League Ignite, 6'8". I do believe he is actually a legit 6'8". He has, say, a plus wingspan. Again, closer to the draft, we might do, I don't know, a spreadsheet or something, but some people say it's 6'10", some people say it's 7 feet. It's a plus wingspan. I think Ron Holland is a very, very interesting prospect. So I've been talking a little bit much here. I do think he needs to put on some weight off the jump because he's about 200 pounds. He's a small forward, power forward type. He does have a constant motor. He entered this year as a top ranked prospect, as I said before. One thing that I thought was really interesting is in the preseason, he outlined who he models his game after. I'm wondering, because this would be interesting for Raptors fans. I'm going to give you each a guess, and then I'll tell you. Who wants to go first?
T-Mac.
Yeah, so you said T-Mac, and you said...
T-Mac too.
Nope. Scotty Barnes.
Oh, okay.
You didn't see that one coming.
Nope.
But I thought it was pretty interesting. So let's get right into because I'm not necessarily saying that he has Scotty Barnes in his game or not. I do think that he does a little bit of everything. So from that standpoint, I kind of get it. But when I say he has a motor, I mean he treats every single possession like it's like an NBA championship, right? He does not quit. And he is constantly getting every single hustle play, going back on defense for every, way back where he's going and recovering to get these chase down blocks and stuff like that. So a little bit of a different player, but he's someone that I think we could definitely use, and he also uses that motor to muscle through guys. So going directly into his offense, I guess since I'm still talking, I'll go first. But he has a functional handle going to the left. He's a right-handed player, and the fact that he can go to the left without dribbling off his foot every time and that sort of thing, I think that's important. I think in a straight line drive, especially when or in transition, he will thrive. I think he attacks the hoop. Finishing needs to get a little bit better, but his ability to slash and cut and get into positions, there's a desire that's there that I think you could see that jumps off the page when you see him, right? And so for me, I think he's shown enough at the G League Ignite, and part of this is on the G League Ignite program. I don't know quite if it's still the best option for skill development, but he has developed some skills this year, and I think he's been decent but not great in a half court setting. And I think that that's really important to I don't think he's dictating your offense per se, but overall, I think that he could do a couple different things as a secondary playmaker. So yeah, Coach, your thoughts?
Well, he's the number 2 ESPN top 100 player out of high school, and Ron Holland's been talked about now for a little over a year about being potentially one of the next big time players in the league. To me, he reminds me a little bit of Brandon Miller and Harrison Barnes, if that makes sense. Like, he's a better athlete than Harrison Barnes, but he's definitely not the shooter that Harrison Barnes is either. So he's some kind of hybrid, I would say, of those two players. Like you said, he's more of a straight line driver than he is a creator himself. I think as well, he's pretty good in transition. He will find guys in the open court. He's a pretty good player, and the Raptors, in my opinion, need front court depth, front court talent. And he's going to be, if assuming they keep their pick, that top pick, he's going to be around there, and he's definitely intriguing for them. Like you said, he can finish above the rim. He's fairly quick off the dribble as well. I think one thing that I've noticed from him is he can create off the dribble. Now, we have some guys that are standstill shooters or go spot up in the corner. We don't have a lot of guys who can create their own jump shot off the dribble. There's not many on this team that come to mind for me, and I think Ron Holland could do that. So
Yeah.
I think it's just that element on offense that he can bring. Take the talent aside, but just that element alone, I think that's what makes him intriguing.
I think he also showed a solid ability to draw fouls at a good rate. Now, obviously, in the G League, it's kind of weird because the foul numbers are going to be skewed, in my opinion, because any time in the first portion of play, it's 46 minutes. If there's a foul, it's worth 1. But what's interesting is he averages 5 fouls a game. So he's going to the line a lot.
He needs to work on his free throw shooting a bit more too. If I did
He
see,
does.
he is a 73% free throw shooter. He'll fit in perfect with us. Forget what I said.
Yes, exactly. So I think from that standpoint, you talked about the shooting woes again from 3. He's making I think 3.5 attempts a game. 3 point, you could round it up actually to 3.6 if you want, but he only shoots about 24%. And even from catch and shoot, which is easier, he's only shooting 30%. So he needs a lot of work in that area. But decent at as you said, creating for both himself and others at that level. Over 6 rebounds a game, so good rebounder, gets in the mix. We're gonna get into his defense in a little bit, and I think that that's where he becomes very interesting because he definitely will have that, but his swing skill is going to be obviously the 3-point shot, as well as one other thing. He's quite turnover prone. He does like to try things, but there's certain areas where it's like, okay, you're going into moves and you're traveling, right? You got to cut that down. I'd say he's got solid upside. but as you said, there's a solid floor there. Beyond?
Just before
Oh,
Beyond goes, you mentioned about the turnover. I'm looking at his usage. That's 28%.
yep.
That's good. Turnovers are going to come with that. He has the highest usage rate, I
Yes.
think, on the G League Ignite team. So I'm not shocked that the turnovers. I'm not saying you're not wrong. You're right. That's
Mhm.
going to come down because we have enough guys to turn the ball over on our team. But I'm not shocked that it's that high if its usage rate is
Yeah,
28%.
I mean, I
Sorry,
was
Beyond.
more looking. I agree with you. I'm more looking at like how the turnovers happen. So if the turnover is
Mm.
happening because he's making a pass and it's a bad that's fine. But if it's happening because it's like he, splits into a move too fast and he's getting a turnover, those are the things that I think he could easily cut down. Um, Unfortunately, he won't have that chance to show that growth between now and the end of the season because he's out. Beyond?
Um, you know, the player he reminds me of just offensively,
Hmm.
not defensively at all, but offensively. I couldn't put my finger on it until I heard Coach kind of describe him. I think of another Raptor actually. I think of DeMar DeRozan. I think of a guy in this case, a straight line driver. When you think about who he was when he came in, raw
Yep.
athlete, going attacking the hoop, had a pretty good could get his shot in this case a little bit. One thing he has already. I always look for this for players from an offensive standpoint. Everyone gets caught up a lot with the numbers. What I'm always looking for is how can you manufacture NBA shots? And if I can see you do that, then it's like, okay, you got possibility to go next level. And when I see him with that step back jumper, that's an NBA shot. And that's
In the
all I'm
mid
looking
range, right?
mid range because when the
Yeah.
shot clock's dying down, you need someone to get someone gives you a grenade. That's the shot you're gonna have to take. And I said, like, okay, there's something here. To your point, the 3-point percentage isn't great, but not saying anything. DeRozan's been some great 3-point shooter, but we've seen guys that can improve to be marginally decent enough. He ends up being a 33% 3-point shooter in the league. You know what? You take it away, and he's able to do all the other stuff at a high level. You roll with it, you take that. But overall, I'll say this right now, on an offensive standpoint, of all the wings we covered so far, Cody Williams, him, or Dunn, I like him the best of the three.
Really?
Yeah, I like
I still like Cody a little bit more, but it's close.
There's an aggression about him that I think in this case here that sometimes Cody feels a little.
Yeah, Cody's very
Yeah, it's a little
even.
Yeah, it's a little too finesse.
He's steady, which is both. It's not a bad thing. He's not. He doesn't disappear, but it just
right. But on the right team, it's perfect for that type of team. For example, playing as the Spurs, it's probably perfect. But on this team, they can use
you need someone with some pizzazz.
Yeah, you need someone a little more, not just the pizzazz, but the aggression.
Yes.
There's too many guys back here like they're ready to go and take a nap. Like we need some guys with aggression on this team. So I don't mind having a few guys like that. And he is one that seems to be kind of got a little bit of that in his game, which I like a lot. The ability, to attack the hoop, the free throw shooting, 73% at this point. That's it's decent enough.
It's a decent base.
It's a decent base to work from. It's not like he's a horrible free throw shooter. I mean, he's shooting like 3/4. So
the other thing too, though, is again when you're only shooting one.
Right, it's hard to get for ideal if it's a true percentage. I get where you're coming from. I think the point you made is actually a more important point in some ways. How often he's getting there, because that's also an NBA skill I'm looking at. And can you actually manufacture fouls? And that's another thing I like to see that he's able to do. I think he's one of those guys that he's one of those guys. If he drops, I think you're gonna get a pretty good player, man. I think he's also a player that I don't think he's as much of a project as maybe you think he would be. And I think
no.
We're looking at, we weren't sure about a year or two ago what the Ignite prospects will look like. We now have a little data. Now a few of them will come out. I'm not saying they're all going to be like this, but they do seem to start with a pretty decent floor where it's like, okay, we're going to have a decent player and he's not going to look like he doesn't have a clue what he's doing out here, which is what we weren't sure of with the Thompson twins. Like we were like, okay, what we can get here? And you find out, oh, these dudes are ready to go from day one. Okay. I think that's one of my apprehension with them last year is like, I don't know what to make of this league or this team, what it's going to be about. So there is now, they've helped in this case give you some idea what type of pedigree you might be expecting when you come in. And like the fact is, like from a raw material standpoint, like probably at least so far one of the better athletes we've dealt with so far. And I really like what I saw from him. He's probably a year or two away. But let's put it this way: if you told me. And it's like right now, there's plenty of other guys we have to go through. I get it. But if you had to tell me 3 years from now and you tell me when these guys popped and it was him, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. Because when you're one of the top high school players and then you're one of the top G League players, which I'm guessing he is. He was just an All-Star weekend. He wasn't playing. Typically that will translate over to the NBA if you hit.
Yeah.
If the potential maximizes.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's someone that on our team next year, we have a lot of holes on our roster. And I kind of, there's someone that I talk to on a regular basis, and we were kind of going back and forth where I mean, I think they've adjusted since our, initial conversation after the deadline, where at first that they were saying like, oh, we're going to be, right in the mix next year, make the playoffs or something. And now they're like, yeah, we'll be, making in the play in. And then now they're like, yeah, maybe the 10 spot, right? I think the 10 spot is, your best case scenario in terms of, and well, not for me. I'm okay with being bad next year. But in terms of your best case scenario of like, if the team really outperforms, I think that they can maybe fly as high as the 10 seed next year. But realistically, I think, God forbid, next year, what if Scotty Barnes goes down? You don't have the roster to maintain a certain level of winning at all if any of your key guys go down. We don't have that anymore. And so I think that this is someone who could have an instant impact on both ends of the ball and have it be meaningful and felt. Coach, do you have any final thoughts or beyond?
Well, Beyond mentioned a good point about Ron Holland's kind of aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
This Pat Bev says, "Guys ain't got no dogs,"
Yes.
and I think Ron Holland, he's an attacker. Like he goes at the rim. You kind
He
of know what
tries
you're
to
going to
dunk
get with him. Yeah,
every time.
it's kind of like he's similar to RJ to some degree. Like you kind of know what you're going to get with him, and I think with Ron Holland, you're probably going to get that, maybe then some, just based on his size and his potential upside as well.
He also
Um,
doesn't get muscled off, guys. But yeah.
I just want to mention, I think I
Mhm.
got these two leagues mixed up. I think when I talked to Thompson, I think they're elite, so I can't remember.
Yeah,
But the G League's the same thing in this case here with Scoot and some of the other guys have come in there, where it's like, they kind of we know what they're getting from now after a few years with this, and I think that's the point I was really making. That it's like he should be pretty ready to go. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It was a bit of a couple of years ago. You weren't sure we are gonna get from coming from these leagues, but we kind of had now a few test studies and realized, test cases that it's like, okay, it's gonna be all right. So yeah, and I think we need to change the temperature with the Raptors. If you're from a Raptor perspective, I said before, there's too much mellowness on this team, and that's not necessarily about this team. I think that's been like that for a little while. Where it's like, okay, there's too much of like, and that's where I kind of miss a guy like Lowry in this case, where it's like making people uncomfortable. There's not enough guys that make guys uncomfortable in this team. Everyone's just kind of just go about doing their thing, and I think that's one of the things I think. I'm not saying as an 18-year-old you'll be able to do so now, but to your point, Coach, if you get a couple more guys like him and RJ, a couple more guys that have a different type of tempo, it might change the malaise that I see the Raptors have right now.
yep.
Whoops.
You know what it reminds me of, just for Raptors fans, so that they know and can kind of put this to some. It's like when PJ Tucker first came here,
Mm.
and he was challenging, DeMar, pushing him in the chest, saying you have to defend better and stuff like that. Like that's the kind of, in a sense, you almost want like a Westbrook type energy on
Mm-hmm.
this team, an igniter, but someone who doesn't need igniting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Ironically from the G League Ignite. So, and I think Ron Holland, again, I'm a little lower on his draft stock than Coach. I think that he will be there, but he might be in that 10 to 15 range. I think, just because he's not able to play between now and then. Obviously, there is the combine, but again, having that lack of like time between now and then, it will hurt, because if he's not able to dribble the ball and stuff like that, it's a thumb injury. There's a certain skill development that's going to be lacking. I'm not sure if there needs to be surgery on it or not. I'm not going to go there, but so I think that he might be in a place that we could trade up to. Yeah, I agree with Beyond. I think I like him a little bit more than Dunn overall, although I think Dunn's a much better defensive player. To switch into the defensive conversation, Ron Holland is not that far behind. I think he has, right now I have his advanced numbers up. He has a 3.7% steal rate which is quite a lot. It's not as much as Ryan Dunn. I can't remember what Ryan Dunn was, but I know that Ron Holland is stealing the ball about 2.5 times a game, and he will be getting routine blocks as well. Maybe not a full block a game, but say a little bit over half a block a game. Uh, the motor is on the defensive end is where you also see it. He flips his hips well, gets low in his stance on both sides of the ball, but especially on this side, he recovers well. But he's also not getting beat all the time either, and he knows how to use his hands. And he can guard his man, but he has shown a couple flashes of guarding 1 through 4, and he takes pride in it. And that's one thing that I like is like he really takes pride in like defense first kind of a thing. Just little things like the box outs, need a little bit of work. The closeouts, there's a little bit of discipline work to be cleaned up, but it's not. He's 18 years old, right?
Exactly.
There's a difference between someone who's like now 20 years old and it's like, oh well, they're not boxing out, and it's like, okay, by now you should know whether
Some
through.
people are 30 years old on this.
Yes,
This
something. This is true. Then you definitely should have known. But if you're 18 and like it's like the occasional thing needs boxing out or whatever, that's fine. He seems to be, when he plays both on offense or on defense, he seems to be a little bit more aware of his size relative to other guys, and he's not afraid to use it. So that was kind of my thoughts on it. It's a shorter conversation today from my end, but yeah, your guys' thoughts, Beyond.
No, I mean, I think you hit on the head. Like, I think, yeah, he's not as good. Like, Dunn in this case seems to be almost like a bit of like a savant defensively.
Yes.
Right. Like, so like, comparing to him in this case here is a tough thing.
It's like the equivalent of like coming into the draft, Wemby versus Miller, right? And it's
right,
just
exactly,
like,
right.
Okay, like
Yeah.
the other guy's good, but it's like, do you want Paul George or someone who's like the next
Right.
Kareem? I'll take the next Kareem.
And Miller's still playing fantastic as we speak, right? There's no shame on that.
Yeah.
But I think with him is like, to your point, like it's one of these things I keep on saying this, like, and I think this draft is gonna make it this is gonna be a bit of a watershed draft in this sense, depending on the rules. How much is offense it kind of takes over from defense these days when a GM's going in to pick a guy? Because I mean, if the difference is in this case, one guy's here on defense, the other guy's here, but the other guy's up here at offense potentials. This guy's only here. You gotta go with the offensive dude, man. Like even you can take your chances. Team defense can cover off whatever little gap there is between him and the other guy that's spectacular at it. And to your point, he's actually a very good defender in his own right. So like, I really do. I used it before. I don't really have much more to say on him defensively. I think he's a guy who could fit in. I'm not sure if he could play 1 to 4. I think you kind of play all the quote swing positions. I think he's 2, 3, and 4 more for me. I don't know if he's a guy who can cover point guards when it's all said and done, not in the NBA level. But I think 2s and 3s. Maybe if you get some more size, 4s eventually. But
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If he gains a little bit more size, I mean, he's 200 pounds ish right now. Say he gets up to 230 over the next year and a half, 2 years. He has the height and the length to cover. Almost like an OG in a sense. I think he's a different player than OG.
Yeah. No. Agree. Coach.
I think defensively is where I had the biggest shock from him because a lot of these top 100 guys, you just hear about their offense, and I think that's mainly how they're judged on. It's like what they can do on offense. I'm not saying defense doesn't play a role, but let's just face it, like Beyond said, offense is going to play more of a role in some of these things. But he's, like you said, he's averaging a couple of steals per game in the G League, so I'm watching him right now. He's got good agility, moves his feet well on defense, good lateral quickness. Mm-hmm. My thing would be, I don't want Scotty guarding the best player on the other team moving forward. And if you got this guy who's around the same height as him, who might have better lateral quickness, that's going to, I would think, if you kept your pick, that's going to be under a big consideration for sure for selecting him if he's available. Because instead of him putting Scotty on, Donovan Mitchell or Garland or some of these guys, you can put Ron Holland on him, and Scotty will do what he does best: roam on defense, be the help defender. And Ron Holland, too, once again, he's pretty good at some of the chase down blocks. So I think Ron Holland's defense is one of the reasons for me why he is going to be, in my opinion, a top 6 pick in this draft. I think he has certainly helped himself in that category.
Definitely.
He's more versatile than I originally thought. I think he's probably going to be one of those guys who can guard 1 through 4, but like Beyond said, it's going to be more 2 through 4 because he's got the size definitely for 2 and 3. Depending on who the 4 is, that might be a bit different. But how he moves his feet, like you said, bends his hips on defense and stuff like that, I think this is going to help his draft stock big time.
Yeah, the real question is like, does he enter the combine like the where they actually play against one another? That if he's ready to go by then, it'll be interesting. Because a lot of these guys just do the measurement stuff and then they bounce because they
Yeah,
don't want to like hurt their draft stock. So that's another thing. So
I don't I doubt he'll do that. It might be, yeah. I can't see him. I think it's good. I think his agent will say, yeah, don't do that stuff.
exactly. So I like I said, it's possible. I'm not opposed to him being in the top 6. I just something tells me, one of these guys, say Kentucky, right? You have your Reed Shepherd, everyone's loving, and Kentucky makes it to the Final Four. Those guys always get popped. Like no one was talking about Jordan Hawkins last year until they were on that run. And so it'll be interesting. I always am curious to see
and then there's
how
the European factor.
there's that too, because the Europeans are going to be playing almost all the way to the draft, to your point.
With Bali, about 3 weeks, we were doing prospects last year. He
And
wasn't
out of
even
nowhere.
out of nowhere.
So this is where the Selene and like other guys
Right.
are gonna, either maintain their spot or kind of blow past them. So it'll be very, very interesting. The other thing too is that there's other G League Ignite guys that will now grow into new roles with him being out. So I'm curious to see, for example, Tyler Smith, how he
Mm-hmm.
moves up, because he's another guy that I think would be an interesting. That might be our next prospect that we talk about. Um, there's guys that might move up that I think, it's not me being low. If I were ranking him, he'd probably be, you know, close to the top so far of what I've seen. But like, there's always that injury factor, and like, when was the last time that a scout saw him or checked in on him? But I agree with you guys. Is there anything else? I should add that there's a couple forfeited picks in this year's draft. The 50th pick is probably going to be, so that's the 76ers draft, as well as the Phoenix Suns second rounder traded from Denver is also being forfeited. But is there anything else that you guys want to talk about before we get out of here?
I just want to say in defense of Ron Holland, because you mentioned the Reed Shepard case, right?
Yeah.
Reed Shepard's playing against 18 to 20-year-olds. Ron
Yes.
Holland's playing against 18 to 30-year-olds. So he is
Yes.
playing some men in the G League as well. And I think that will be going to some consideration too, that Ron Holland might have a better case for him. It comes down to what teams want.
I mean, it could be
They
wishful
think,
thinking on my part too.
but I
Please
think,
fall to the
yeah,
Raptors.
I think Ron Holland's going to go top 6 in this
Mhm.
draft.
Jan?
I don't have anything else to say. I think based on how things go, who knows? He might be enjoying the Alamo, and we'll see what happens.
So far he's according to this draft, and this is why it'll be interesting, to see where people end up, because depending on who picks where, these picks could be worth trading up for the Raptors. Currently, he's being drafted per Tankathon by the Memphis Grizzlies. Well, they already have Gigi Jackson.
You know what? Funny enough, that's what the no ceiling guys, when they did their mock draft, that's where he went to.
Yeah. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they do. It made sense. They called out your boy there, coach, man, Gigi. They said, look,
Yes.
man, you put him and Gigi together, man. It's like,
Him and Gigi would be interesting, but they might also be thinking, you know what, we don't need another Gigi, right? Maybe they're trying to go for it.
but maybe that's the reason why in this case, the X-Man got moved out, right? Because I suspect that Aldama's going to get more time, and then Gigi's going to be pretty much a rotation player next year. Tillman,
Right.
it's been fun.
Right. Memphis is going to be interesting next year because they could definitely do a couple things. But they also might trade to keep things a little bit cheap for just a little bit longer because, they're close to that apron.
True.
So it'll be interesting. With that being said, it's been Basketball Rewind. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much. It's been fun to join with you guys. And take care and peace.